We're starting at the table tonight and just going to dive right in on this conversation with three folks. Welcome back to the show to all of you, and with three very different perspectives on this to help us have a good conversation. We'll introduce everyone first. Rasheen Aldridge, Jr., the Ferguson Commission member, the youngest Ferguson Commission member. Gwen Moore, curator, Missouri History Museum. Thank you for being here, Gwen. And Chief Tim Fitch, retired Chief Tim Fitch, formerly of the St. Louis County Police Department, now with Fitch LLC. We should, just to clarify for folks, you had stepped down from and retired from the St. Louis County Police Department prior to this time last year.
5 months prior.
5 months prior to anything that happened last August. Gwen, I'll start with you, the historian at the table.
Okay.
Help us put this in perspective. I know these are things you've been thinking about as a historian. Is this something that is rewriting textbooks, or is this a kind of a blip on our local radar? How do you see it?
I don't think it's a blip. I have been looking at, historically, at the relationship between African Americans in the city of St. Louis, in the state of Missouri, and the legal system. And that's been a troubled relationship. And of course, it has a lot to do with the way most African Americans came here. We came here not on our own free will. We came here as primarily slaves, and our movements were strictly regulated. And that's for slaves and free. I'm going to go way back.
That's okay.
I'm going to go way back to the antebellum period, and that's before the Civil War. And we had some very, very stringent laws that regulated the behavior of free blacks and slaves. All blacks had to have a pass at all times. And if you were caught without that pass, you could be arrested. You could be punished. That was a law that only applied to black people. It did not apply to free whites, but it applied to free blacks. You could not even be in a religious service without a white observer there. You could not be in any assemblage without a white observer there. There were slave patrols that policed your behavior. So this troubled relationship is long-standing. So you can understand this sort of wariness that blacks and law enforcement have, because they were so strictly policed. And let me just say that I'm looking at this as part of a larger problem, that, you know, policemen are state actors. They're agents of the state, and they enforce the laws. So if a law says you have to have a pass to be on the street, it's incumbent upon that police officer to make sure you have that pass. So it's the laws. We have to look at the larger society. So
will historians 200 years from now be looking back to this time that we're living through now as any sort of...
Absolutely. One of the things that we're doing at the History Museum is that we are doing a Ferguson collecting initiative. We're doing a Ferguson oral history project, because we realize that this is going to be a moment, or it's a movement, that's going to be investigated by historians for decades and decades to come. You know, historians usually say we need at least 25 years of distance from an event to actually look at it objectively and interpret it. And so we're right in the heat of this movement. We're right in the heat of the moment. So it's very passionate, and people are very emotional. So we do need a little distance before we can be more objective about what's going on now. But all I want to say is that these problems did not happen overnight. It's long-standing.
People would say that was a long time ago. You're saying that has informed our relationships with each other today.
I used the antebellum period as sort of the beginning of all of this relationship, but it has progressed all the way up to the present day. I mean, I was just thinking about the Kerner Commission, which one of the things the Kerner Commission said, which was in 1968, was that we need a more diverse and sensitive police force. They said that in 1968. We're saying that today. So things have been progressing in this, maybe not progressing is the right word, because that gives I guess the opinion that it's something is getting better. And I don't mean it in that way, but I mean this is the way that the history is moving forward. And so things have not changed as much as we would like to think they have changed.
In history.